MedBits Webcast is a new kind of healthcare media channel to break the silo mentality and foster interdisciplinary thinking. Our mission is to fill that gap and to create a curiosity through different lenses, tapping the passion that guided the historical figures in medicine and bringing present-day groundbreaking research to the front lines. We interview physicians and leaders in the industry about present-day healthcare challenges on our live programming. Hey, welcome to the MedBits Webcast. This is Raman Anamaraju. I'm the host. We have a very exciting program today. So actually, there is I'm going to interview a cancer advocate, cancer patient advocate from South Africa, Cape Town, South Africa. I'm going to interview her. So this because we are getting a different perspective is much good. Is good for our healthcare system, to understand the different perspectives of the different countries, what their problems are. Every country has unique problems in healthcare. We need to, if you understand it, we can help each other and solve some other problems. That's what I feel. But that's the reason I interview the personalities from all over the world. So the next thing is I interviewed, as you know, Dr. Attali from a very well-known oncologist from India. He gave us a different perspective. So different countries give a very different perspective on their healthcare system. So after that, I'm going to present an extraordinary woman in the history that what she contributed to medicine. She's an unknown, famous woman. Not too many people know her name, but what contributions are enormous. So this is one of the things I'm strongly feel. Science supposed to be impartial and give us the fair to all the people, fairness to everyone, opportunity. But science itself, science community they're not immune to the racism, discrimination, particularly gender. Women did not get their fair share. A lot of them, they are so much contribution they did in science and healthcare and health. They were ignored in the history. History books did not do very good job about that. I'm going to talk about one of the extraordinary women from England. About her. So you must listen. It is so important, particularly if you are a woman. Why they ignored these kind of contributions by women from the history. But anyway, let me bring in the South Africa healthcare system is very similar to our system. There is a private healthcare system and the public healthcare system. They're parallel. 80% is a public healthcare system, 20% is
private healthcare system. The very important thing in South Africa, everybody is taking care of health. Even the migrant workers who comes to do work in the diamond mines, they're taken care. Even though they're exploited, as in the DiCaprio movie about the diamonds, the thriller. So you can see that how much exploitation is there. But still, it is very important for us to understand the different perspective. She is truly Salomé Meyer. She is a cancer patient advocate from South Africa, Cape Town. She's joining. Welcome, Salome Meyer. Meyer from South Africa, Cape Town. She's joining, and we would like to know a little bit more about you. You're the cancer advocacy. We are from United States, and I lived most of my life here in the States. And the one thing we don't know much about South Africa, that we know that apartheid was there, Nelson Mandela. That's all we know. We don't know much about healthcare system there, and we have not much of a education in that area. So you can give us a little exposure on that area. So give us a little bit about your background, Salome.
And very good morning to everybody there in Silicon Valley. I'm happy and thank you for the invitation. So, yeah, I trained as a medical social worker many years ago and worked in community development for more than 15 years. And that was my foundation for the value and importance of civil society participation in change. Effective social change in communities can only happen if there is meaningful participation by the very people who are affected. So, more than 25 years ago, my best friend passed away from breast cancer at the age of 37 and leaving behind a 2.5-year-old daughter. And I was at the height of my professional career and was faced with the question, what is your purpose in life? And this allowed me to refocus. And I gave up the security of a paying job to live my own life then with purpose by making a meaningful change in cancer care. And I know that about myself. I do not do well on an individual one-on-one care or even group work. One of my professors at university already warned me that my talents are in change and in community development. And it's also linked to my parents who allowed me to grow up with a very strong will and to believe in myself. So I'm fortunate also that my life partner supported my decision to be actively involved in cancer care change. And over the years has walked many of the very rough roads with me. So I started off in an advisory capacity, training cancer nonprofits in the developmental focus of cancer care. And that led to my role as an advocate for policy change, focusing on cancer registration, national cancer control, and a dedicated cancer policies and access to affordable medicines. With my exposure to the archaic patent law in South Africa, I became aware of the injustice of our own legal framework that does not allow for people to have equitable access to essential medicines, such as trastuzumab for breast cancer, lenalidomide for multiple myeloma, and bendamustine for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And this is despite a very, very bold constitution that recognizes health as a human right. Nelson Mandela said, where you live should not determine whether you live. So I was introduced to the Treatment Action Campaign and Section 27, and that was my entry point in cancer activism. Health is a basic human right, and we need to bring the need for comprehensive, timeous cancer care to the attention of governments. This is a discussion that includes patients because we say nothing about us without us. It's not a business deal. No, it's a patient public private partnerships. And that is what we say we need to rethink, redesign, re engineer cancer care, and cancer patients and their families needs to stand up and speak up for their health rights.
Salome, before you jump into the cancer care, just give us a 30,000 foot idea about the South African healthcare system. Is it like a private and public parallel systems exist, right? Just what I little bit I know about the South African healthcare system. You have a public healthcare system and a private healthcare system parallel together. Is that
Correct. So what we have is we've got 84% of the public sector, of the people in the public sector that access the public sector, 84% of the population. And then the 16% goes to the private sector. But if we then look at what are the facilities as well as the healthcare professionals, you will find it is the turnaround. So you've got 80% of healthcare professionals, as well as your equipment and facilities that service 16% of the population. And that is the absolute inequity of healthcare services in South Africa.
so? It is besides that you have a serious shortage of doctors and nurses also. That is that South Africa is struggling with that process, and then rural areas doctors, that is also a big challenge for you all in South Africa, right?
We do have a shortage of doctors. On the one hand, yes, there's a shortage. We've got brilliant, brilliant doctors in this country. And our training of our medical and our healthcare professionals, not just medical, healthcare professionals in general, is excellent. However, what happens is that because of the absolute, I want to say, the situation at your public hospitals, those doctors or healthcare professionals have to work long hours, sometimes with not enough equipment or not enough medicines, under terrible conditions. And that allows them to leave, and they lured into the private sector. And then what you start having is that those private sector healthcare professionals are also lured into working for in overseas. So we've got a lot of brain drain that happens with the fact that we've got excellently trained healthcare professionals that choose to go and live in other countries.
You have university hospitals are very well advanced in South Africa. Are they? Do they provide enough care and take care of enough people in South Africa? University hospitals.
Our university hospitals are excellent. They provide excellent care, and I cannot stress it better than just saying excellent care under sometimes under very difficult circumstances. But it is again a matter of having enough money to buy in the correct equipment. Um, just as an example, and it's a case that we're dealing with at the moment, and I actually can use that as a very good example. So, for prostate cancer, one of the latest technologies available is robotic surgery. And that would mean that robotic surgery is something that should enter at an academic hospital because you need to train your new urologist in the technique of robotic surgery. So that is a combination of an education grant as well as a facility grant. But at one of our provinces, where there is an extreme backlog of radiation therapy backlog, as well as a prostate surgery backlog, there isn't enough money to buy exactly that equipment for the province to start training new doctors in robotic surgery. And I'm now sitting with a request of a young man, 39 years old, that requires robotic surgery. It can't be done.
You know,
So what are we?
in the United States, that is not a problem. Prostate cancer was well taken care for men. So we have a lot of problem with the breast cancer side. So that is a huge problem here. And then, that enough for access to care. Same thing as in South Africa. Tell us a little bit about besides the prostate cancer for men, what about the other cancers like breast cancer and other cancers that prevalent in South Africa?
So breast cancer in South Africa, in the private sector, again, we've got excellent care. Our patients that do go to private care for their screening as well as their treatment are in fact treated within the international guidelines. The problem with the public sector would be the number of patients, and therefore it becomes a waiting list. And some of those patients have to wait anything between 3 months and 9 months for their treatment within the public sector. And that depends very much on, I want to say, in which province you live. What we also have, and that is in general for majority of the patients in the public sector, is that most of our patients in the public sector are diagnosed with late stage disease. They're diagnosed with late stage disease because at the primary healthcare level, the ability of our healthcare professionals to do early detection and screening isn't there. So patients present already with late stage disease symptoms, and by the time they then are referred to the tertiary hospitals for their treatment, it then becomes a challenge to treat those patients. And that would be for any of the cancers, whether it be prostate, cervical, breast, colon, all those kind of challenges we have for our cancer patients.
That's a worldwide is true. The early detection and the screening is a
Yes.
big challenge everywhere. Sometimes, even if they have access, people don't go and do that, and there's a lot of other factors also play a role. Sure, that's one of the things. But let me ask you a question of what is the if in the United States people if they get a cancer, usually even a middle class families, they have to switch to the public health because cancer care is extremely expensive. Tell us a little bit the cost of the care in South Africa about the cancer care. If they is it extremely expensive or they can afford it or an average middle class? Can you give a rundown a little bit about that part, please?
So your average middle class person, that would be, let us then come back to that figure of 16% of the population. They will access the private sector and they will access the care through their medical scheme, who will most probably pay for the majority of the costs associated with their cancer treatment. The only aspect where it could not be funded is when you start talking about your high cost medicines. That would be your immunotherapies, because it's just the cost is just too high. If we look at a medicine, pembrolizumab, that for instance is not going to be covered for I want to say for more than 80% of your private sector patients, that it will not be paid. So that is definitely not happening. Within the public sector, your cost for your cancer treatment, in fact, is covered completely then by government. Um, you, as the patient, have to, so your out of pocket payments would have to be your transportation cost for your treatment. And then also there is a fee attached to every visit. So it's a nominal fee. But even that for many patients could be an extreme out of pocket cost. What also happens in South Africa, and that's whether you private or public sector, is that many of our cancer patients are faced with the fact that they have to stay out of work for the duration of their
Mm.
cancer treatment, and not all the employers are really sensitive to this, and therefore patients have to go onto sick leave, or patients actually lose their jobs. So that is not protected within our labor law. Unlike countries such as, I think it's the Philippines and Chile, and even if I think Brazil, those countries have made provision within their legal system to actually protect cancer patients and cancer treatment. And that is something I think that we would like to work towards.
That would be excellent advocacy for you to make sure that fight for the legal rights of those people that who are sick. They cannot go back to work and they are not covered for that. Some kind of a disability kind of a
Yeah.
situation has to be there. So well, yes, that's a good news at least that people with the afflicted with the once they are diagnosed, they can be covered quite extensively by the public system, and the private system is also is decently very good in that sense that if they are diagnosed and once they are diagnosed, that is accessible, very easy to get access to those resources, as you say.
Yes,
That's what you're saying.
yes, yes. I mean,
It's not that okay.
yeah.
Let us talk about. I saw your column, one of the columns that you mentioned, medical legal claims. we have a we have a huge problem with the fraud, the claims, and the Medicare budgets here in the United States. So, what is a medical legal claims? A little bit. Tell us, expand that idea about the medical legal claims.
So patients that are in in the private sector, they, at least I want to say, they've got their own insurance, and they can pay if there's a claim against a doctor for any wrongful procedure or anything like that. They can utilize, I want to say, their own insurance systems to actually pay for that. However, patients that access the public sector haven't got that ability. So when there is a claim against the government for any wrongful treatment procedures or whatever, it then becomes a medico-legal claim that the government has to pay for. So that whole investigation and court procedures, etc. So there's a lot of that happens. And what we find in South Africa, and the Auditor General, in fact, has highlighted this is one of the problems within the healthcare system, that if you look at the budget expenditure, that a great percentage of the budget expenditure goes towards medico-legal claims. So one can then start analyzing that and ask, but what are the reasons for this? Is it
Bunch of lawyers,
well,
attorneys, lawyers, right? A legal system.
that's right, but also one need to ask the question: isn't there, for instance, the fact that you've got healthcare professionals that are overworked, that we haven't got, that we've got hospitals that cannot function properly because they haven't got all the correct equipment, or so there could be many, I would want to say, reasons why certain things are happening, and we're not necessarily addressing the root cause of the problem.
There must be a legal framework. They need to address that part to do. That's one of the advocacy for you also in the list of large number, lot of advocacies you have.
Yes.
That's one of them we need to add.
Yeah.
Um, the the question that I have is a little bit about my friend. Actually, I work with a South African gentleman. Not I interviewed actually on my program. South African gentleman. He's in the United States. He's in Knoxville. He manufactures the cancer equipment. So one of the state of the art cancer equipment he manufactures is from South Africa. Nick Schroeder, his name. So his company name is I I'm just not remembering the name exactly, but he's one of the pioneers in the proton therapies and the electron beam therapy in this
Yeah.
country. So I interviewed him on my podcast actually.
Okay.
But so South Africa, I had produced one of the best. He was educated in South Africa, so that's he producing a very quite a bit of. Actually, I'm not that far from your Elon Musk. Your South African
Yeah.
native here.
Yeah.
His factory is not that far from here. So we are all great people came from South Africa. In fact, but the access to care is still with all these talent and the smart and the educated people around you, and still the access to care, that must be the challenge. For it seems to be a challenge. So there is a people like you advocacy program plays a crucial role in particularly for the cancer, was a deadly disease. So that what are the things you do usually to further advance your advocacy program?
So the Cancer Alliance, and that's the organization that we have in South Africa, is I want to say the mouthpiece for cancer advocacy in South Africa for our cancer patients, and we're an umbrella organization bringing together more than 30 cancer nonprofit organizations as well as individual advocates. And our purpose is to make cancer a priority disease in this country, for government to recognize it as a priority disease, so that we can redirect, I want to say, funding towards cancer care, because it's not only, in fact, it's not only just about cancer care. It is about building a healthcare system at a primary healthcare level that can look at the person as a whole and that can deal with the person from at all levels, and then have appropriate referral pathways. So for us to do that kind of advocacy also requires funding. And funding for us is crucial. At the moment, nobody is funding us. So most of our work is being done voluntary. And voluntary and working hard, I want to say 365, 24/7, that kind of analogy. That's what we do, because we have to continue putting on the pressure on government.
You have a big diamond, as I saw some movies, you have a big diamond, diamond, and the gold mines are there in South Africa. So there's a lot of foreigners and expats come down there and do the labor work. How their healthcare system, if they get a cancer or something, or they are taken care by public health system, or they're left for dead.
That, I think, is one of the biggest problems and biggest challenges that, let me say, that Africa has got, and particularly South Africa. We cannot, at this stage of the game, even deal with the scourge of our own people.
Yeah.
So the question remains, how are we going to deal with migrants? And that and everybody is running away from it. Nobody wants to actually look at it. We have got a lot of African countries that is starting to look at also improving their own cancer care, but that still is also going to take a long time. And we've got a lot of people from other African countries who cannot access care in their own countries
They come to.
that come to South Africa, but they then have to access the private sector. And there's many of them, and they do. They access and they pay. They pay the what I call exorbitant fees. They pay for it. But as you say, the problem remains about that migrant worker that is now diagnosed with a cancer. What happens? If that person doesn't have the money, and what will happen is that if that person accesses the public sector, that person has to pay according to medical schemes tariffs in the public sector. They can't afford it. So, yes, it is actually a reality. Those people are sent home being whether either you stay in South Africa or sent home to your own country to die. So it is a conundrum that we really will have to start looking at from an African Union perspective. And I also want to say, from a World Health Organization perspective, to actually look at what systems are we going to put in place for cancer care for our refugees and for our migrant workers.
So the Millennium Fund, that is for we all come to know about a Millennium Fund, is a very well allocated funds for the AIDS and tuberculosis. I think that's are all well funded from the United States and the World Health Organizations, right? That is particularly came from the United States under George Bush leadership. It came a lot of funds were allocated during that time of AIDS. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes. So there's lots of funding that pours in for HIV/AIDS and TB, but there's no funds that are pouring in for cancer. What is starting to happen, and that at least is, I want to say, progress, is that because of the linkage with HIV/AIDS, cervical cancer is starting to getting some funding from an HIV/AIDS perspective. And that, at least, as I say, is progress. However, there are many other cancers that also has to get the attention, and we actually need to bring it to the attention from our international agencies, our philanthropic organizations, that cancer is not one disease.
Yeah.
Cancer is more than 300 diseases.
Yes.
And each cancer for each person is different. So it is not as easy as a one medicine, or, one size doesn't fit all. And that is the challenge in exactly with cancer and cancer care. So if one look at how do you start building your health system to provide timeous care, it is an expensive exercise, and cancer is on the increase.
You know, if South Africa is struggling about the cancer, one of the advanced countries in Africa, think about other countries. So give us some rundown on the rest of the Africa. What is the situation in African countries, the cancer situation there?
Well, let me say this to you, that I think that in the whole of Africa, cancer is a major problem. Again, not necessarily being addressed in the same manner. I think, yes, as you say, South Africa is in a better position and we have got, from a healthcare professional perspective, as well as equipment, as well as the access to medicines, cancer medicines, we are, I would say, the best off. The other countries, if I look at, for instance, Kenya has got, and where they are far ahead from South Africa, they have got what they call a National Cancer Institute, and their cancer institute coordinates their cancer program, which is what we don't have in South Africa.
So Kenya is doing very well in that sense.
They're doing well. They're
Okay.
doing very well. And similarly for also for Uganda, and I also know that Botswana are also starting to look at it from a far more integrated perspective. And that is unfortunately what South Africa doesn't have. We don't have that integrated care perspective, because we're still talking about the public and the private sector. So your African countries, and then Rwanda is your other, I want to say, other star that is really starting to focus again on integrated care systems. I know Egypt is also doing well, Morocco. So there's many of your African countries that are literally working towards that integrated care. Obviously you're going to have some countries where care is just very minimal, and lots of patients still are not getting care, or either that they have to go towards India for treatment, or other countries where they go for treatment. I also know, for instance, in Nigeria, there's lots of people from Nigeria that prefer accessing private healthcare in the United Kingdom. So that's kind of like what you have in Africa.
Very interesting. You gave a very rundown of the whole African system there. So if some of one of the final questions I'm going to ask you about the complementary integrated care that you were talking about. So people that with the cancer, there's a lot of depression, a lot of other services they require. Particularly, some of them may prefer complementary services like integrated health, like Ayurveda or other services. How the system responds in South Africa, that kind of a need for that kind of system. How, what is the mechanisms you have, or people don't even pay attention to those kind of complementary services now at this time?
So they, I want to. So in South Africa, I think we also need to say, and that actually happens within Africa. The our By very nature of our people, we've got many people that access traditional healthcare. So they go to their traditional health practitioners as a first point of care, and then and therein lies another, I want to say, challenge. It's not a problem. We need to marry a Western system with the traditional African health medicine system. And that is where we need to find that collaboration and building of capacity within the traditional African medical health system, or health system, that you make sure that you build the capacity of those health practitioners to also refer towards the cancer care specialists, but also that there can be complementaries within this, that can be used. So from I want to say a Western perspective, it is always important that when we talk about cancer care, that when you want to utilize a complementary medicine, that it always is done in conjunction with your healthcare professional. And that is what is very important. And I don't think that we should actually just discard and say, no, it shouldn't be available. Because people grow up in communities with systems that they trust. But what we need to do is we need to embrace those systems and let the systems work for the individual. And that is, I think, going to take us a bit of time still, to actually get to that point as well.
So,
But
Salomé Meyer, you are a true advocate. South Africa is a blessed to have you advocate like you to for cancer their care. So I'm honored and privileged to talk with you. It's a thank you so much for joining with me in this hour.
thank you. It's been my pleasure, and best wishes to you and all your
By
listeners
the
there in
way, Happy
Silicon Valley.
Bandana Day. That's I don't wear a bandana, but I'm wearing a hand bandana. Happy Bandana Day to
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Today is a
Thank
Happy
you. And
Bandana Day, right? That is a Cancer Day, October 25th. Right?
we don't, we have to be honest with you, we have so many cancer days that you kind of, I want to say, get confused of which day
Which
is
one
when,
is that?
that kind of thing. But yes, thank you, and very much, and happy Bandana Day to you as well.
Thank you.
And have a good day.
Thank you, Salomé. I'm truly honored. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining.
Thank you kindly.
it is a Salomé Meyer. Your email address is salamefan, FAAN at gmail.com. I'm going to give you she's supposed to give me the Cancer Alliance, South African Cancer Alliance, Salome at South African Cancer Alliance. If you do that, you can reach her. But at a Gmail address, I'm going to put it there in the columns in the text. Next one, Salome at FAAN at gmail.com. Salome fan at gmail.com. And that's her email address. Wonderful. She is really gave a rundown of the entire African healthcare system, and particularly the focus on cancer. It is a very interesting, thanks to Dr. Bill Frist, who really tirelessly worked on PEPFAR to allocate the Millennium Fund $15 billion. That's really saved the AIDS from Africa, AIDS and TB. Now, she was saying the unique problem is, even though they have some funding, good funding for that, they cannot use that funding. There are a lot of restrictions on funding using for the cancer. So there must be some kind of a things we all need to work together on that one. The thanks to Dr. Bill Frist, and then George Bush is he's a former president of the United States, and he did a great for the one thing he did, that is definitely we need to notice that and acknowledge that. So I'm going to present a very interesting topic. Salome has to go, and then but I'm going to present a topic on extraordinary woman. She's from Africa, actually. You will be surprised. She is very kind of a background, little bit background like Salomé Meyer. So I'm going to give you that's an extra story of the extraordinary woman. So I'm going to present to you just a minute, and let me come back to the okay. Just a minute. That is Salomé Meyer from South Africa, cancer advocate. They're blessed to have here. There are people who are truly the great humans. The reason with all the corruptions, with all the crookedness, all the unkindness, people like her saving this planet, honestly. I have so much respect. There is an Indian saying, Manava Seva, Madhava Seva. There's a service to humanity is to service to God. Those are the people that really reminds us. But anyway, there is another woman, that's extraordinary woman from Africa, unknown, famous woman. I'm going to talk about her, okay? Seeing the unseen. That's what I'm going to talk about it. So you have a big and small contain you see in the biological systems, you see a big one is a blue whale. Blue whale is the biggest, 100 meters long. It is a huge, the blue whale. And then fairy fly, it's just so small, like a small 0.0001 the inches, 0.0094 inches. You cannot see. So you see that it flies. Actually, very surprising. It has a very big wings to adjust that to the wind. Actually, fairy fly is the smallest that we know of biological system. I'm not talking about bacteria and all those things, but that you see the actually moving things. Fairy fly is the smallest one. So the big and small container, but very interesting thing you must notice, big and small contains very, very small, tiny cells. Everything, either fairy fly or blue whale has to have cells, very, very tiny. So it contains very, very tiny cells. It's built from that. The biological system came from building from the tiny cells. So if you look at it, seeing this small, you have to, I'm giving you an example of cells, viruses, vitamins, molecules, atoms, and RNA, all of them, the small things, how do you see them? Seeing this small the science has to advance in that area. Science is the one, give the tools to see the smallest things like that. So seeing the smallest cells, viruses, vitamins, molecules, and atoms, that is seeing the small. I give you a rundown of that. If you see with the naked eye, you can see zero point 0.2 millimeters. So you can see very resolution is very good for the eye. I was surprised, when I was, I'm not a biology student, but I was surprised to see that zero point zero 0.02 millimeters we can see with the naked eye. With a light microscope, one of the microscopes, you can see 10,000 times more resolution it has. 0.0002 millimeters. You can see the the things that you want to watch, any bacteria, anything like that. You can see the resolution is 10,000 times higher than a naked eye. Electron microscope is a million times higher the resolution than eye. Electron microscope is works in a different way with electrons. That's why they call electron microscope. These are all seeing. Seeing is believing. Seeing is small. But there is a limitation, right? Because when you see something, you only see surface. The microscope's limitation is the only surface you can see. You cannot explore what is inside. What is inside the cell? What is the structure of that? We don't know. So that is microscope. There is a limitation for the microscope is there. So seeing the inside, that's actually 1895. There is a Annabert Röntgen, the guy who invented the X-rays. His wife, he took the picture of the first X-ray actually by mistake. He got it there. You see the ring also there. Then came in X-rays. You can see inside through the X-rays. So you can see that's really that is the first one, 1895 December. By mistake, it was an accident. They found out that is the radioactive material through radioactive materials. That's after that Mary Curie came in. She made it extremely popular. So X-rays you can see inside, but how the X-rays work? I wanted to give you a rundown of the X-rays. Usually, when you expose the human body, you see a lot of X-rays. The doctor's offices, in the hospitals and clinics. You stand there, the X-rays come in, and then most of the X-rays are scattered. Some of the X-rays are scattered, and most of the X-rays they go through, and then some of them are stopped by the bones. So that's why you see the shadows there. The other X-rays go around the bones and the soft tissues. They go through, and then you see hard tissues. They reflect there. That's what you see in pneumonia, for example. You can see chest X-ray. That's where you could able to see the bones in the rib cage and the X-rays. Right? That is the key. So most of the people we ignore at that time scattered radiation, scattered things. Though a lot of X-rays are scattered, we don't care about them because we want a straightforward X-rays coming straight to the body, and then most of the high intensity X-rays we catch them. Then that is revolutionized the diagnostic radiology, as you know. The chest X-rays, pneumonia, you can find out. You can find urinary tract infections, UTI, and it is really truly revolutionized the medicine. Diagnostic radiology revolutionized the X-rays, totally revolutionized the medicine, as you all know. But it is the second part. Then during the same time, there is a diagnostic side we improved quite a bit, but also during the same time we got a wonder drug penicillin. Penicillin came in 1928. Alexander Fleming found the accidentally is also if he found out the act of the penicillin. So it was surprising that there is I did a Alexander Fleming. Then there is two other gentlemen that they got the Nobel Prize along with everybody. All three got the Nobel Prize. But the penicillin, you have to collect a lot of penicillin mold, penicillium mold. I think that's what they call. They collect a lot of mold. You need like a one whole what do you call lake of penicillin mold to get the two patients medicine. So it took a decades to produce the actual penicillin in the large quantities. It took a decades. So after that, the penicillin, So the problem is it took decades because we did not know the structure of the penicillin. We did not know what is the penicillin structure is, atomic structure is, what the compound looks like. We don't know. So it has allergic reactions. People know, and some people died with anaphylactic shock. The anaphylactic shock, and some people die with other allergy reactions, and then a lot of GI problems, gastrointestinal problems, that the stomach problems came in through the penicillin. Those there are side effects. Sometimes it's a fatal. So because we don't know what the structure of the penicillin is, then came in a woman from Africa. Out of Africa, her name is Dorothy Mary Crawford. She was born in Cairo, Egypt. She was in 1920. She was born in Dorothy Mary Crawford was born in 1910. Her father was is an archaeologist, John Minter Crawford. Mother is a botanist. She is a Grace Mary Crawford. She was born in because they're from England. So these are the English colonial rule. So they were working as educators and archaeologists in the area in Egypt. They were stationed in Egypt, in Cairo. So 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 Dorothy Mary Crawford was born in Cairo, Egypt in 1910. She's from Africa. She's African, like Elon Musk, but she was born in Egypt. So both are very well educated. Parents are so. So that changed the world. So she used to then, but she went to school in because there is no great school system. So they put her back in the England. They were working in Cairo, Egypt, and then they put her in the grammar school in an all girls school, Sir Lemon John Lemon School in England, in Kent, near Kent. So she went to school there, but she was going shuttling back and forth for the summer vacation between Egypt and then Sudan. Also, they were stationed for a while in South Sudan. So she saw Africa quite a bit. She went to Egypt. Of course, she knows Egypt. She traveled to Jerusalem with her mother, archaeologist, and then also Palestine. Right now, what's going on up there in Gaza, near Gaza Strip. She traveled with her mother and father along those places because father is archaeologist. So her father is mostly is archaeology studies, and mother is also very interested in what do you call mosaic art. That's I didn't know this. This is a church. They put these glasses, church mosaics. I say mosaics. Sorry if I my so they're all crystal, kind of a crystals. There's mirrors, the glass made from a glass. Church was that's a big study during the time. The studying of those church mosaics is a big study in archaeology. So they were studying. They were came from almost Jesus times. So they were studying those church mosaics, and also her mother was very involved with their school studies. And then she gave a book, and when she was 10, 12 years old, she gave a book on X-ray crystallography by H.G. Braggs. He's another physicist who invented the X-ray crystallography. She gave a book. So eventually, mother and daughter is excellent, their relationship, and Dorothy she graduated from a Somerville College in a bachelor's in biology, I think, chemistry, and then she got a PhD in chemistry from Oxford. So she was a highly educated now. So she got excellent education, and because she was influenced by crystals, and then they were studying about church mosaics, crystals and glass. She was very inspired by that. So she really that took that the direction to somewhere. So I'm going to get back, going back to the X-ray crystallography a little bit. X-rays, if you put diamond, for example, if you want to know the structure of the diamond, you can put an X-ray, then you can run through the X-rays. So actually what happens is, if you ignore the straightforward big image of the X-ray, if you collect the scattered radiation, all the scattered stuff, if you do computation right, you know exactly where the atoms are, where exactly carbon atoms are, how the how the diamond was structured. That diamond is so strong because you know that carbon atoms are the way it is, the bond is. So X-rays, if you ignore the straightforward radiation and you take understand the scattered radiation, you get the structure of the diamond. That was X-ray crystallography. That was that changed that inspired Dorothy. If you could do any crystal, but suppose any crystal you can put it. So you can take any biological systems, any disease, you can make it as a any medicine, you can make it as a crystal, then put it there, you can get the X-ray crystal, the structure inside that the crystal. So that is scattered or collected. Now, scattered radiation, or the most important, all the scattered radiation, where they come from, and if you compute the attenuation, you know the exact location of the atoms. That's not that easy, but during those days is a very difficult. So that's where the Dorothy came in. What she did was Dorothy Crawford. What she did was she made the penicillin mold. She took it and then she made a crystal out of it. You can go through the osmosis program. You can put an alcohol, ethanol, and then slowly you can change it with a little bit of structure and a manipulation. You can get a penicillin crystal. Once you have the penicillin crystal, you want to find out the structure of the penicillin. That is the holy grail right now, right? So that is where she got. She put X-ray crystallography. That is not easy. You have to still a lot of computational mechanisms are involved. That is really drawn from her. That's the first picture of the penicillin structure. Amazing. She found it in penicillin structure first time. And you see the inside in the penicillin, you see a ring that you see in the ring up there. I want to show you with my cursor there. There's a ring up there. That ring is the one which cures the diseases, all the infections. The other ones are problematic actually. That is that what they, by knowing the structure, Dorothy announced the structure of the penicillin, it changed the treatment of the treatment and all the side effects. You all know the that's why during this time she got married to Hodgkin, Mr. Hodgkin, I think. So she got the change the name to Dorothy Hodgkin. Her name is now became Dorothy Hodgkin. Discovered the atomic structure of the penicillin. Exactly where all the things are in that atomic structure. The rings are important. The ring structure that's a special name. I'm not a chemist, so I don't know I can't even say how do you say that name with the pronunciation. But the ring is the key to treat the infections. So Dorothy Hodgkin, the penicillin, because of the structure, they got rid of outside of the other parts outside of the ring. That became amoxicillin now. You see a lot of kids taking a pink medicine. Really, that is because of Dorothy Hodgkin. She is the genesis for that. And the penicillin became amoxicillin because they drastically reduces the side effects, because that they only took the ring structure and got rid of the other bonds. So thanks to her, the millions of kids, really she saved indirectly or directly. Dorothy on a roll after she didn't stop with the penicillin after that. She took the cholesterol steroids structure. First time, when she was younger, a little bit younger than penicillin, she took the cholesterol structure, she found out the steroid structure. She took a mother's alcohol. So when they dry the crystals, what happened is when you dry it too much, she's not getting the good images. So what she did was she put these crystals, the biological crystals that she made from the ethanol I showed you. So putting the mother's alcohol, I think mother was drinking quite a bit, I think. That's a whiskey. So she put those things in the biological samples in the alcohol, and then they were getting a great diffraction. She can study the samples. She's the genesis of the cholesterol, cholesterol reducing drugs. Because of her, she is the genesis for the cholesterol drug. So she is on roll. She didn't stop. She is not. She got the bigger than all is a B12 structure. One of the complex structures, in fact, B12. B12, my father used to give me always B12 injections. My father is the doctor. B12, whenever I get sick, weak, or nervous system, it helps you in the nerves and it gives you a lot of energy. B12 is like a wonder drug, wonder injection in my view. Is a wonder. So B12, she found out the structure of the B12. It really changed the world. The B12, every doctor I know has always B12 in his bag, even in the rural villages. You will be surprised. So she won the Nobel Prize for the 1964. She was awarded for the B12 structure. She was awarded Nobel Prize. Dorothy Hodgkin won the Nobel Prize 1964. Then she didn't stop. She's on a roll. Dorothy on roll. This is the mother of all inventions. She should have got second Nobel Prize for this. She invented the insulin hormone. She structured the insulin hormone. She gave the first time the structure of the insulin hormone. For the diabetes 1 and 2, she changed the entire. There's so many host of developments came from insulin structures. Once they come to know what the insulin hormone structure, she gave the first time a structure of the insulin protein that changed the world, and everybody developed a lot of other things. There were a lot of advances came in. Now today, millions of children are saved with diabetes 1 and diabetes 2. People are being saved because of her, Dorothy Hodgkin. She's a remarkable woman. So Dorothy, she's a love of science. She loved science, and then she was suffering with a rheumatoid arthritis. Even when the 12 years old, she was having a lot of problems. So she was in a wheelchair. And the X-ray crystallography conference in Beijing, last one, she attended the X-ray crystallography congress in Beijing, in China. After that, she died. After come back, she died July 29, 1994. She died in England. Dorothy Hodgkin, she is interesting. She is a professor for, I didn't know that Margaret Thatcher was a chemistry graduate. She studied chemistry under Dorothy Hodgkin. Dorothy Hodgkin was their professor. So Margaret Thatcher, the former Prime Minister of England, studied under the Dorothy Hodgkin, and after the death, she said that Dorothy Hodgkin was a towering figure in the British science. Her work in the structure of penicillin and vitamin B12 has had a profound impact on medicine. Think about that. The former Prime Minister Thatcher, she was hanging her portrait in her office in the British Prime Minister's office. She was hanging her portrait. Even Dorothy Hodgkin is a Labour Party. She didn't like even her policies. But they are friends, that she was a teacher for her, for Margaret Thatcher. So Dorothy Hodgkin is a remarkable woman. Not only Dorothy Hodgkin, Venki Ramakrishnan he was the inventor of the ribosome, the largest structure of the RNA. He was awarded Nobel Prize. Venki Ramakrishnan became the Royal Society president, former president now. So the last year, the previous one is a Venki Ramakrishnan. He came from the United States, and he moved to there, and then he got the Nobel Prize for the invention of the structure of the ribosome RNA. They call him ribosome reader. He said that about the Dorothy Hodgkin Memorial Lecture. He said that he paid a tribute. He said that I'm in awe. Nothing but awe about this extraordinary woman of science, mother of structural biology. She invented trailblazer. She invented penicillin structure, cholesterol, B12, and insulin. How many people we know about that name? It is truly an honor to present here. I feel very emotional. This kind of people we cannot be ignored in this in history. So thank you for joining. Uh, thank you all for joining, and it is just a extraordinary. So two people from Africa, they are really the planet was being saved by is being saved by these kind of people. People like Salomé Meyer and Dorothy Hodgkin. Thank you for joining. Good night of all of you. See you soon tomorrow. Thank you all.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.